Why isn't my cat jumping anymore? Hi human, my name is Rice Cake. I'm here to help humans understand cats a little better, and today we're talking about why your cat is not jumping anymore. Now, this is one of those changes that humans notice and immediately start feeling uneasy about, usually for good reason. One day, your cat is hopping onto the bed, the couch, the windowsill, the counter you specifically asked them not to use, and every other elevated surface in the home like a tiny acrobat with no respect for rules. Then suddenly, something changes. Your cat hesitates. Your cat climbs instead of jumps. Your cat stops going to favourite spots. Your cat stays on the floor more. And naturally, you start asking the question that matters. Why isn't my cat jumping anymore? Is your cat getting lazy? Is your cat just older now? Is your cat being dramatic? Or is this one of those situations where the behaviour is actually telling you something important? Well, human. This is one of those topics where the answer can matter quite a lot. Because when a cat suddenly stops jumping, or clearly jumps less than before, that is often not random. It does not automatically mean something is seriously wrong, but it is also not the kind of change I would brush off as nothing. So today, I, Rice Cake, will walk you through the most common reasons a cat may stop jumping, what kinds of behaviour changes to pay attention to, what humans often misunderstand, and how to think about this in a way that is useful instead of panicked. Let's begin with a short answer. If your cat is not jumping anymore, the most likely reasons are discomfort, pain, stiffness, weakness, lack of confidence, fear, environmental changes, or simply the fact that jumping no longer feels worth it in the same way it used to. That is the real answer. Usually, when cats stop jumping, something about the experience has changed. Maybe the body does not feel good. Maybe the landing does not feel safe. Maybe the cat is older and more careful. Maybe the route has changed. Maybe the cat is uncertain. But in most cases, the behaviour itself is giving you useful information. The first and most important possibility is physical discomfort. This is the big one, and it is the reason humans should not shrug this off too quickly. Jumping is not just one movement, it is a whole chain of body events. Push from the back legs, stabilise through the core, lift, land, absorb impact, and do it all without anything hurting too much. If any part of that chain starts feeling unpleasant, the cat may begin jumping less, hesitating more, or avoiding certain heights entirely. From the outside, humans often see only the decision. The cat did not jump. But from the cat's point of view, the real issue may be the feeling that comes before, during, or after the jump. Maybe the push-off feels wrong. Maybe the landing feels jarring. Maybe the body no longer trusts the movement the way it used to. Cats do not usually sit there and explain this in words, obviously. We explain it with behaviour. We pause. We climb instead. We choose lower routes. We stop going up. We think longer before leaping. We become more conservative. That is why a reduced desire to jump can be such an important clue. It may be one of the first signs that something in the body feels different. Now, this does not mean every cat who jumps less is in dramatic crisis, but it does mean you should take the change seriously, especially if it is sudden or clearly different from your cat's normal habits. One very common reason for less jumping is stiffness or age-related discomfort. As cats get older, they do not always stop moving, but they may stop moving in the same way. A cat who used to launch onto high surfaces in one clean leap may begin breaking the movement into stages. Chair first, then sofa arm, then bed. Or maybe the cat starts choosing lower resting spots. Or maybe the cat still wants to get up somewhere, but seems to think harder before doing it. Humans often see this and say, "Oh, my cat is just being lazy now." Sometimes that is not laziness at all. Sometimes it is strategy. The cat still wants the destination, but the body is managing the route more carefully. That is a very different thing. In older cats, reduced jumping can be connected to stiffness, soreness, or a body that simply no longer feels as easy and spring-loaded as it once did. And because cats are good at masking discomfort, you may not see anything dramatic. You may just see smaller choices, lower jumps, slower movement, less willingness to do what used to seem automatic. The second big reason is that your cat may feel pain when landing, not just when jumping. This is something humans do not always think about. You focus on the leap itself, but the landing matters just as much. In fact, for some cats, the landing may be the more uncomfortable part. Even if the cat can still technically jump up, coming down may no longer feel good. That can lead to some interesting behaviour changes. A cat may still get onto something high, but then seem reluctant to come down. Or the cat may pace a little once on top of a surface, or cry for help. or wait much longer than usual, or stop going up entirely because the cat remembers that getting down is the real problem. From the cat's point of view, that makes perfect sense. If the return trip feels bad, the whole trip becomes less appealing. This is why it helps to look not only at whether your cat jumps up, but also how your cat gets down. If the cat is hesitating, climbing awkwardly, looking stiff, or avoiding descent, that is part of the story too. Another common possibility is that your cat has become less confident. Not every change in jumping is purely physical. Sometimes the body may still be capable, but the confidence is not fully there. Maybe the surface feels slippery. Maybe the cat had one awkward landing. Maybe the furniture moved. Maybe the route changed. Maybe another pet is now nearby. Maybe the cat got startled during a jump at some point and no longer trusts that spot in the same way. Cats are not only physical animals, we are also very sensitive to predictability and control. A jump that once felt easy and familiar may start feeling risky if the conditions change. And once a cat loses confidence in a certain route or height, you may start seeing hesitation, route changes, or total avoidance. This is especially common if something about the environment has shifted. New layout, new furniture, different flooring, new object blocking a path, less traction, more noise, more interruption. Humans tend to look at the furniture and think, it is basically the same. Cats notice details. If the jump no longer feels stable, clean, or controlled, that can absolutely matter. Another reason your cat may not be jumping anymore is plain old body weight and fitness. Now, this is a delicate topic because humans are very emotional about cat roundness. Some of you think every chubby cat is just extra adorable and blessed with a larger sense of self, very sweet. But extra body weight can absolutely change how easy and comfortable jumping feels. A heavier cat may still jump, but with less ease, less frequency, or less willingness. The effort is greater. The impact may feel stronger. The confidence may drop. The overall movement may simply feel less pleasant than before. On the other end, a cat with muscle loss, weakness, or lower overall condition may also jump less. Not because of extra weight, but because the body no longer feels powerful enough. Either way, when jumping changes, the body deserves some attention. And this is one reason why watching the whole movement matters. Is your cat moving more slowly overall? Climbing stairs differently? Avoiding certain activities besides jumping? Sleeping more? Looking stiff after rest? These details help you understand whether the issue is really about one leap or about movement more generally. Sometimes the reason is more situational. Your cat may still be physically able to jump, but may no longer need to. Humans sometimes forget that behavior depends not only on ability, but also on motivation. If the favorite resting spot changed, if a lower option became more attractive, if the room is warmer elsewhere, if access became easier through a different route, your cat may simply be making a different choice. That is why it helps to ask, what exactly stopped? Did your cat stop jumping entirely, or just stop jumping onto one specific place? Did your cat stop high jumps but still do small ones? Did your cat stop using the bed but still hop onto chairs? Did the favourite windowsill become less appealing because something near it changed? These are not small questions. The pattern matters. If your cat is still doing small, easy jumps but avoiding bigger or higher ones, that tells you something different from a cat who seems reluctant to jump at all. One points more toward difficulty, discomfort, or caution with bigger effort. The other may suggest a broader change in movement, comfort, or confidence. By the way, human, if you want more help understanding cats before you accidentally label a meaningful behavior change as just being weird, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay here with me. Good. Let's continue. Humans also miss the importance of timing. If your cat has always been more active at certain times and less willing at others, then a little variation may not mean much. But if the change is consistent and sustained, that matters more. A cat who used to jump onto the bed every night and suddenly stops for several days or weeks is telling you something. A cat who used to launch onto the windowsill whenever birds appeared and now only watches from the floor is telling you something. A cat who used to climb onto your lap chair and now circles, hesitates, and gives up is telling you something. The point is not just that the cat changed. The point is that the cat changed in a meaningful pattern. That is where humans need to stop treating behavior like personality and start treating it like information. Because one of the most common mistakes owners make is assuming that if the cat is still eating, purring, and acting mostly normal, then nothing important can be wrong. Cats are not always that obvious. Sometimes the first clue is subtle. Less jumping, less stretching, less climbing, different route choices, longer hesitation, slight stiffness. These small things matter. And when they show up together, the pattern becomes even more important. Another useful thing to watch is whether your cat is replacing jumping with climbing. A cat who no longer springs cleanly onto the bed but now pulls themselves up in stages is not necessarily refusing height. The cat may still want height very much. What changed is how the body wants to get there. That distinction is important. It tells you the motivation is still there, but the movement strategy has changed. In practical terms, that means your cat may benefit from easier access, a lower stool, a chair beside the bed, a step arrangement, a less demanding route. If the cat uses those alternatives happily, that tells you a lot. Not that the cat stopped wanting the space, but that the old route no longer feels ideal. This is where humans can be very helpful. Not by insisting the cat prove something through a leap, but by making the environment easier to use. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is admit that the cat is not being difficult. The setup is. There is also the possibility that fear or stress has become part of the jump situation. For example, if there is another animal nearby, if the route crosses a noisy area, if the cat got startled before, if children rush toward the cat on elevated surfaces, or if the landing area no longer feels secure, the cat may decide it is not worth it. Again, this may look to humans like avoidance with no reason. But from the cat's side, there is a reason. A jump only makes sense if the destination feels worth reaching and safe to use. That is why context matters so much. A cat who stops jumping onto the bed because the dog now sleeps there is telling you something different from a cat who stops jumping everywhere. A cat who stops using one shelf after a loud object fell from it is telling you something different from a cat who has become more physically cautious overall. The behavior is only half the story. The environment tells the rest. Now let's talk about what you should actually pay attention to if your cat is not jumping anymore. Watch for hesitation. Watch for route changes. Watch for stiffness after rest. Watch for reluctance to come down from heights. Watch for a cat who still wants the destination but seems less confident about the movement. Watch for smaller jumps disappearing first, or higher jumps disappearing first. Watch for any other change in mobility, posture, or daily rhythm. You do not need to turn into a full-time cat detective overnight, but you do need to stop assuming all movement changes are personality changes, because very often, they are not. And this is also where I have to say something very clearly. If your cat suddenly stops jumping, especially if the change is obvious, persistent, or paired with other differences in movement or comfort, that is worth taking seriously. This is not the kind of thing I would label as laziness and forget about. A cat whose movement changes is giving you information that may matter quite a lot. That does not mean panic. It does mean attention. And attention is usually much more useful than denial. When humans get scared, you often look for the happiest possible explanation. Maybe my cat is just sleepy. Maybe my cat is just being funny. Maybe my cat just prefers the floor now. And yes, maybe sometimes. But if the change is real, consistent, and not part of your cat's normal pattern, it deserves a proper look. That is because cats are very good at adjusting behavior quietly when something feels off. They do not always complain loudly, they just start doing less of what no longer feels good. That is a powerful idea, actually. Your cat may not be saying, "something hurts." Your cat may simply be saying it with the body instead. That is why I always come back to the same principle. Read the pattern, not just the moment. If your cat skips one jump once, that may mean very little. If your cat stops doing something they used to do all the time, that is different. If your cat starts taking the stairs to the sofa in 3 steps instead of one elegant leap, that is different. If your cat gives up on favorite elevated places entirely, that is different. And once you notice that pattern, the question is no longer, why is my cat being weird? The better question becomes, what changed in my cat's body, confidence, or environment that made this movement stop feeling worth it? That question will take you much farther. Here is the bigger picture. Cats usually do not give up useful, enjoyable movement for no reason. If your cat used to jump and no longer does, there is usually a story there. Sometimes it is age. Sometimes it is stiffness. Sometimes it is discomfort. Sometimes it is confidence. Sometimes it is environmental. Sometimes it is a mix. But usually, it is something. And your job as the human is not to assume laziness. It is to notice the change, respect the information, and respond thoughtfully. That is what good cat care looks like. If this video helped you understand your cat a little better, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with me. See you in the next video, human.